Hello, and welcome to Healthcare IT Today, where we explore the latest healthcare technology trends and discover valuable insights in health IT. I'm Colin Hung, and today I am joined by Neal Somaney, co-founder of Medical Savant and EVP at CorroHealth. Neal, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Colin. Glad to be here.
So, Neal, I'm excited that you're here because we're going to get a chance to explore a topic that I know a little bit about, but I'm looking forward to learning so much more, and that is autonomous coding. So maybe we can start by you giving us a little bit of an education on what is it? What is autonomous coding?
Yeah, Colin, that's a great point. This is a new buzzword in the industry and certainly catching a lot of traction. What we have done in the past 7 years is evolved medical coding with the advent of some of the high-tech investments that the government has made in terms of the economic and clinical health record. They've spent about $30 billion in order to digitize the medical record. And a lot of the providers have moved to electronic medical records. With that, now we have the capability to put through and use our clinical language processing, which is a NLP that we have developed in-house. And we have kind of curated a lot of data where we're now able to use our software algorithms to derive some of the things that a human coder does autonomously. So whereas had taken the technology forward in terms of assisting the coder, we now have technology to move it even further to the next step of autonomously, where the software becomes the coder and the coder gets elevated into more of an auditor role, still required, but more into an auditor role. So now the kind of a next generation CAC where we can do things autonomously whereas CAC just assisted the coder.
Wow. So this really represents a big change, it sounds like, in terms of the process for coding. I mean, it seems like you're really streamlining it because now your system can do it and your former coder is now, as you put it, more of an auditor.
Yeah.
Is that what that process will look like if someone, when we get to the promised land of having autonomous coding fully implemented?
Yeah, we have customers today where the desk of the coder has changed. So how you kind of look at coding traditionally for certain charts. So if you look at ER charts or Profi charts or clinic charts, software now can do things a lot more enhanced than where CAC was. And we can automate the charge capture component, for example, in an ER chart, where you have E&M coding, you have infusion and injection coding, and you have procedure coding done by the nursing staff or the physician staff, all chargeable services. We can derive all of that autonomously through our software, which reduces the workload for the coder significantly, or whoever the charge capture person is. And then we can also derive the ICD codes autonomously, and a lot of those would go into your billing system without any touches. We have all kinds of confidence scoring methods and algorithms to kind of tell the coder what to look at, and it reduces the work effort and improves the quality overall of a coder going forward.
And is that really one of the benefits or one of the biggest benefits of having a solution like autonomous coding, is that basically it's fewer rejections, fewer issues, more streamlined? Are those some of the benefits?
Yeah, I think Colin, productivity improvement is certainly top. Where we can get a lot more productivity. Coding resources are scarce. A lot of times you can't find coders. You're always outsourcing. We think autonomous engines and software is going to become the norm in the industry for certain chart types. I think the technology is still evolving, but I think productivity improvements is certainly a big item. I think the revenue improvements potentially, because coders, as you get during the day, you get tired, you might miss some things. Software doesn't miss anything. It knows once the algorithms are developed, it'll pick up the charges consistently unless there's some change. And then improve turnaround times. The software can continue to process charts during the weekend. A lot of times when you come in operationally, Monday you have a backlog of claims because you're processing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The software continues to run over the weekend. So turnaround times improved, cash flow times are improved. So I think those are some of the benefits that you see. And then, of course, cost reductions. With all of this, you see cost reduction. And I think, in my opinion, this also, you make things easy for your staff and simplify it in terms of an organized workflow. I think it also drives employee satisfaction. In my opinion, it also drives retention. Why would somebody want to leave the organization when you have invested in technology that helps your job, right? So it's not that we're out to eliminate every piece of it. We think that there's also a retention perspective to this.
So I want to dive deeper into that topic because that's a little bit counterintuitive, to be honest. Because when I hear the words autonomous coding, I think immediately people think of the AI or the robot taking over the job, and even you've mentioned that the traditional role of a coder may be changing if you implement autonomous coding. So if I was an HIM professional, maybe doing this kind of role today, should I be worried? Is this going to take over my job and I'm going to be out of one? Or
No, I think that's always human nature. I think the technology has come a long way in terms of where we are today in autonomous coding and what we can do. I think industry is adapting to some of this at this point. We're not fully there, I think, but people are starting to listen. They know that there are technologies out there. I think we're one of the ones that were more in the forefront of it.
Mhm.
But I think overall, I don't think people should be as concerned. Will this change the dynamic in terms of how things are done? Yes. But you still require a coder to look at exceptions. You still require coders because the software will not be able to derive every single aspect of it. There will always be exceptions to how physicians document, nursing documentation occurs. So there's a lot of variety in the documentation. So you'll always need a coder. What our goal is to make them more productive. And I think as the industry is changing, there's vaccine mandates, there's all kinds of different things that are happening out there, increased demand for coding resources. So I think you'll always require coders. So I wouldn't be concerned. I think these are tools and technologies to assist the coder, same as how CAC came out. I think we're taking it to the next level. We think that it'll improve, our goal is to improve productivity and lower the cost for the overall system.
Right. I mean, and ultimately, I think, you touched on it a little bit. If I'm able to exercise my brain more and be more critical thinking and really apply my knowledge to solving some of the exceptions, I'm ultimately going to be a bit more satisfied with my job versus doing the same thing repeatedly over and over again. Those jobs tend to burn people out very quickly, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you're always going to need the experts. So these exceptions are where we need the human capital, right? We need the human expertise to kind of make those decisions as exceptions come up. So I think that's always going to be there. And I think as we also have to find ways, how can we use our resources better and more smartly? And so the normal stuff can be taken care of by software, but the coder can become the expert or the auditor, if you wish, and we use that term interchangeably between coder and auditor, because the software becomes more like a coder, and we need those experts to audit certain aspects of the software.
I want to circle back to something else you mentioned in your statement of benefits. I'll use that as a fun term. No, but you talked about the improvement that could be had in terms of cash flow, and of course, we know right now that there's tremendous financial pressure on a lot of organizations in terms of cash and profitability and so forth. So, in terms of reducing the time to cash, in other words, I mean, do you see this? Is this measured in like a day or two? I mean, you mentioned sort of the weekend, and over a year, I'm assuming that will make a big difference for especially a smaller clinic.
Oh, absolutely. I think we can process charts within seconds, if you wish, and consume the chart from the electronic system, and we can send the results out back into the customer's financial systems or billing systems every hour, every 15 minutes, once a day. So the turnaround time changes significantly, right? So you don't have to wait for the next day when the coder comes in or somebody's absent, it's out for the week, you have a backlog. This kind of happens, constantly every day, 7 days a week. you always have the exception charts that will go to a coder or auditor, as we call them, and then they can review the exceptions, but those would be the exceptions, right? So I think it has a view where you can get so much more efficiency out of automation software than you would otherwise.
Mm. Mm.
And that results in cash flow, it results in all the downstream benefits that the system gets, right?
So, I mean, it sounds like autonomous coding, we've talked a lot about benefits. I mean, there sounds like a lot of them. I got to be honest, and why haven't we heard more about this? It sounds like if it's such a wonderful thing, is it just a case of, there's only a few pioneers? Is it a case of the technology maybe not being as accepted right now? What do you think in terms of why it is that maybe the overall healthcare ecosystem hasn't heard or really latched on to autonomous coding yet?
Yeah, I think, it's the phrase necessity is the mother of all inventions or innovations. I think that comes to mind, but I think one of the things is also the inflection point that we have had, right? So about 5-6 years ago, we came into ICD-10. That was an inflection point where we went and expanded our code sets. Significant amount of training and effort had to be put into the industry from all aspects, whether it's physicians or hospitals. And I think that was an inflection point. There was a lot of labor needed at that point because of the task at hand. And then there was an inflection point of all the investment that was made for digitizing the health record. So technologies evolved, and we came into being about 7 years ago to build out this technology because of those inflection points. So, and then we've been starting to change the conversation in the industry and try and not only show how this can be done, but we're also educating some of our customers as to, and prospects of customers where how this can be done. There's still a little bit of skepticism in the industry, but I think this is going to become the norm. So I think it has been these inflection points and the investments that have been made to get us to this point, right? It's not that other companies don't have this technology. I think there are more leaders that are coming into this space. I think we're in the forefront of it, but there's a lot of other companies that are coming behind us, which is a good thing for the industry because that's where it'll change the dynamics overall.
Neal, tell me a little bit more. What is CorroHealth doing in this area in terms of, well, beyond autonomous coding and other things? What are some of the other projects you're doing?
Yeah, so CorroHealth, we're putting in a lot of capital investments in this space. We think that we have the technology DNA. We are a technology company. We provide a lot of services. We're making significant investments in the mid-revenue cycle. That's where we are focusing. We can do all the stuff on the front end and on the AR side. But we think in the world, in the coding space, in HCC coding, there's a tremendous amount of opportunities that providers need at this point. So one of the things that we're focused on from a capital perspective, besides coding, we're also doing investments in our CDI from a technology perspective, CDI documentation improvement. And then we're also focusing on HCCs, the hierarchical conditional coding, to improve RAF scores. So a lot of hospitals are taking risk-based contracts, and that's where we're focusing to help them improve their results on these risk-based contracts so that they can get paid appropriately and accurately for some of the things that they're providing. So we would love the opportunity to talk to whoever the audience is at some point to bring us in and we can have a more detailed conversation.
And Neal, where can people go to find out more information about CorroHealth or about autonomous coding that we've been talking about today?
So you can go to our website. I think would be the best place, www.corrohealth.com. I think you can start there and you can reach out to us. We look forward to hearing from some of the audience if you're more interested and have a deeper conversation.
Great. Neal, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks, Colin. My pleasure. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this interview as much as I did, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you're listening and watching. Also, head over to our healthcareitttoday.com page to access free resources, industry news, and insightful articles. You can also connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag HITSM. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for being here.